Hi friends, today we are going to be talking about figurative language. You're going to need a whiteboard, sock, and marker or something to write with to answer some questions. So if you need to, pause the video and go get those things now. Alrighty, so what is figurative language? Figurative language is a way of making words and phrases more dramatic or interesting. It takes language beyond what is literally meant. So it's a way of just dressing up language. It's a way of making things more exciting to a reader, or a way of talking that is more exciting. Whenever you describe something by comparing it to something else, you are using figurative language. I'm as excited as a puppy to learn more about figurative language. So that's an example of figurative language because it's comparing its excitement to the happy, joyful, energetic excitement of a puppy. What is figurative language? Well, there are many different types of figurative language, and we've talked about some before. We talked about them a lot in poetry, but they aren't just in poetry, they're also in prose, in all different types of writing and talking. So similes, metaphors, hyperbole, onomatopoeia, idioms, alliteration, and personification. These are 7 of the most commonly used types. So let's learn more about each type. What is a simile? Well, we've talked about a simile before. It uses the words like or as to compare one object with another, to suggest that they are alike or similar. He was busy as a bee. So it's comparing his busyness to that of a bee using as. A simile uses the word likes or as to compares. She was silly like a clown. There's that like. She was like a clown. Now, a metaphor is like a simile. It compares two things, but does not use the words like or as. A simile would say you are like something. A metaphor would say you are something. Her eyes were jewels sparkling in the sun. Now, are her eyes really jewels? No, it's figurative language. But a metaphor says you actually are that thing to compare. Here's another example. The deep ocean is a dark cave. It says it actually is, so it's a metaphor. Hyperbole is an exaggeration that is so dramatic that no one would believe the statement is true. I'm trying to be very dramatic and exaggerate my talking as I talk about hyperbole. He was so hungry. He ate the whole cow for lunch, tail and all. Now, could someone really eat a cow? No. Could someone be very hungry and feel like they could eat a cow? Sure. It describes how hungry they actually are. I don't have time to do my chores. I already have a million things to do. No one has a million things to do, but you can feel like you have a million things to do and you can describe it that way. You can exaggerate. That's hyperbole. Onomatopoeia, it's one of my favorite words to say, onomatopoeia, because I think it sounds pretty cool. And onomatopoeia is a word that imitates the sounds of things. The duck quacked as it crossed our path. Have you ever noticed that when you say quacked, it actually sounds like a quack? Say quack. Hey, you're quacking. That's onomatopoeia. The tiny fairy disappeared with a poof. When you say poof, it actually makes a little poof. That's onomatopoeia. The word imitates the sound. Idiom. An idiom is a phrase that says one thing, but means something entirely different. Once you hear some of these idioms, you're going to be like, hey, I'm using idioms all the time. Everything is coming up roses for Sarah today. Now, it looks like Sarah won a soccer game and there were no roses involved. But roses are always associated with really good things. So they say coming up roses, right? Like she's doing really good. She's having a great day. Even though it has nothing to do with roses, that's what makes it an idiom. Thank you for helping me today. You're my knight in shining armor. Okay, well, no one is clearly a knight in shining armor. This is not the Middle Ages, but it's an idiom, right? It means that that person really helped you, like knights used to help people. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of a sound at the beginning of 2 or more neighboring words, and we talked about this with poetry. Lovely Lisa loves lazy lizards. They're like tongue twisters. Sally sells seashells down by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. You hear that repeating sound at the beginning. Dancing dinosaurs deserve donuts. Maybe you want to make one up about me. Can't, can't, carry. Can't carry cans constantly. Make one up about your own name. Make an alliterative sentence up with your own name. Personification. There's a hint in personification, that word person. It's when human characteristics are given to an animal or object. My teddy bear gave me a hug. Well, unfortunately, teddy bears can't really give hugs. But by saying that, we're treating that bear, which is not alive, which is just an object, as if it was a person and can do things that people do. The flowers danced in the breeze. Are the flowers really dancing? No, of course not. But we're describing them that way because we understand what it means to dance. We're giving those flowers qualities of people. Now let's see if you can identify figurative language on your own. Here's where you'll need that whiteboard or a piece of paper to practice. Which type of figurative language is this? His skin was tan like the sand on the beach. I said like because that'll give you a hint. It's comparing his tan skin to sand using the word like. That is a simile. The sentence uses the word like to compare the color of his skin to the color of the sand. Clever cat. Clever cats catch critters constantly. Did you hear that? That's alliteration. This sentence repeats the hard k sound. My brother is so skinny, he could be a telephone pole. What do you think about that one? My brother is so skinny, he could be a telephone pole. It's hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. No one is as skinny as a telephone pole, right? But they're exaggerating that. That monkey is cool as a cucumber. Is cool as a cucumber. It's comparing something using as, which makes it a simile, but it's also a metaphor. Who knew that it's a simile and also an idiom. Who knew that cucumbers were so cool? But it is a common phrase. It also compares the monkey to a cucumber. So people say something's as cool as a cucumber all the time, even though it has nothing to do with a cucumber. It's just saying that they're very calm under pressure. So that's an idiom. Now it's an idiom that's a simile because it has this word as in it as the comparison word. Stella took time to wave and moo at the passersby. What do you think about that one? Well, we've got the onomatopoeia in the word moo. When you say moo, have you noticed you're mooing like a cow? And personification, because cows do not wave. We're giving them human qualities. Patty preferred to plant petunias in pots. Do you hear that p sound at the beginning? That's alliteration. Repeats the p sound. Kaya was enjoying her book so much that it slipped her mind that she was supposed to be doing her homework. It slipped her mind. Yeah, it's an idiom. The phrase slipped her mind is an idiom that means she forgot. Have you heard people say slip my mind? That's something you say if you just forgot something. It just slipped my mind. The tire screeched as the race began. Have you noticed when we say screeched, it's onomatopoeia? It sounds like a screech. It imitates the sound. I got so dirty that my pants screamed, "Clean me!" Can pants scream? No, we're treating them like people here. That's personification. The sentence gives human characteristics to pants. Pants cannot scream. Samantha, the sad sheep, sulked silently. Do we hear the s? That's alliteration. The sentence repeats the S sound. After we moved out, our house was an empty shell. It's saying it actually is an empty shell, even though it's not an empty shell. So that is a metaphor. It's comparing the house to an empty shell. If Francis wins the lottery tonight, I'll eat my hat. Is he really going to eat his hat? No, that's hyperbole, right? It's exaggeration. It's also an idiom. I'll eat my hat means that whatever is happening is not very likely. It's not very likely that it's going to happen. The sun stretched his rays and said hello as he came over the horizon. Well, can suns really do those things? Can they talk? Can they stretch? No, that's personification. It's giving human characteristics to the sun. Emily swam like a dolphin in the pool. Anytime we're comparing with like, it's a simile. Santa's beard was itchy sandpaper. Was itchy sandpaper. We're saying it actually was itchy sandpaper, even though it's not itchy sandpaper, right? So that's a metaphor. We're comparing to itchy sandpaper saying it actually is that thing. The soccer ball was not going to whiz by the goalie. She had other plans. What do you think? This one's tricky. Well, the word whiz kind of sounds like whiz. You say it kind of quick, right? That's onomatopoeia. My grandpa's nose is so big, he could smell the flowers from miles away. That's exaggerating a little bit. Someone can have a good nose, but they're not going to be able to smell things from miles away. So that's hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. My mom's perfume was like sweet roses in bloom. We hear that word like and it's comparing, so it's a simile. The popcorn jumped in my mouth so fast that I ate the whole bowl. Can popcorn actually jump? No, humans can jump, right? So that's personification. Popcorn cannot really jump into your mouth. It is giving human characteristics to popcorn. Paul was a shining star at the basketball game. Now, can someone really a star, like a shining star? Are they really shining? Like you see the lights coming off them? No, that's a metaphor, right? It is comparing Paul to a shining star without using like or as. My pencil was as sharp as a razor, slicing the paper with every move. If we use as a comparison, it's a simile. Ash sang and strummed the strings of the guitar. Ash sang and strummed the strings of the guitar. I'm hearing a lot of s in there, so I'm going to say it's alliteration. But they also called it onomatopoeia. The word strummed sounds like it imitates the sound. I don't know, kind of. Strummed? You say it. What do you think? Is it onomatopoeia? My dad's feet were so smelly, I thought there were garbage trucks in the house. Could someone's feet really be that smelly? It's a little bit of hyperbole and a little bit of exaggeration. A funny exaggeration, but exaggeration. The bodybuilder was as strong as King Kong. We have that as for comparison, so it's a simile. I was so hungry, I could have eaten a million donuts. They're really exaggerating how hungry they were, so that's clearly hyperbole. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. Seems like exaggeration again, right? Jumping over a building is not possible. He might be super strong, super fast, but that's not possible. The ticking clock reminded her that she ought to be sleeping. Ticking, right, is an example of onomatopoeia, a sound word. I would also say that, well, yeah, just onomatopoeia. Her lips were red like ripe cherries. Like. Yes, we've got a simile. One more. I didn't get that. Could you? The pirates were dirty rats floating in the water. We're saying they are dirty rats. So that's a, got it, metaphor. Nice work.